welcome to Afterthoughts this week. This week, I am so excited because we have Bryn with us, which is really sweet. Bryn, thanks for speaking on Mother's Day.
Yeah,
Very
of course.
cool.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Let's start with, if you're up for it, just give me a recap of what you talked about.
Sure.
And then we'll discuss a bit after that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my sermon, if you want to call it that, was about just God as a mother, just viewing God as a mother, because we talk about God as a father a lot. And I think it's just as important to talk about God as a mother. And that's kind of been a personal journey for me lately, and something that I kind of wanted to bring to others. So just kind of talking about how, like, we know that God created man and women in his own image, and so clearly both are included in who God is, but we don't talk about God as a mother very often. And so I just kind of brought in some different things about compassion as a character, part of God's character, and how that word in Hebrew relates to womb, and just kind of like the deeper connections there. And then talking about as well the whole image of, like, God is life-giving through, like, birthing imagery. We talk about being born again through Christ. And there's different verses in the Bible, lots in Isaiah, about God, like, giving birth to Israel.
Yeah.
And so just talking about, like, that powerful image of God, like, going through that incredible struggle and pain and to give us life and new life. And then also talking about God as a breastfeeding God, which is, like, a really new one for me, which is kind of weird, but El Shaddai, like, that's kind of what that translates to. And so that kind of taps into, like, a God who nourishes us and who nurtures us and wants that witness and that closeness. And I think that's just a really powerful image.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, as I was kind of chewing on it, I really enjoyed chewing on it. I was like, oh, this is fun. My first question then for us, and maybe even for you personally, my question would be, where have you personally felt God's compassion for you?
It's a big question.
Yeah.
I think there have been a lot of times, one of the things that I talk about is, like, struggling with self-compassion, and how that can even leak into having compassion for others. Like, if you struggle with having compassion for yourself, sometimes it's easy to not have compassion for others as well, or to be overly compassionate for others and not save any for yourself. And we know that we all fail sometimes in big ways and small ways. We all get hurt and we hurt others. And so in those hard moments, compassion is so important to be like, it's kind of related to empathy in that way of, like, I know that I'm also broken, and I see you in what you're going through, and I feel that too. And so thinking about God in a way that isn't transactional and is more, I see that you failed here, but I have compassion and I love you. It's like the Israelites, we talk a lot about them failing over and over again, and we do too. But God is compelled by his compassion over and over again to bring them back. And so personally for me, I've seen that over and over. Just every year of my life, there have been times where I've done something really stupid or something really hard has happened and I have not reacted well. And just seeing how God just really gently is kind of like, hey, I see that this was hard. I see that, you struggled here, but maybe let's turn back this way and let me come for you and let me pick you up and let's go a better way.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So yeah, I would pose the same question to you. Where have you personally felt God's compassion for you? All right, Bryn, and you, in the section where you talked about life-giving, God's life-giving characteristic, you talked about Isaiah 42 and how God relates childbirth to battle, and how it's not a passive role, but a strong fight for the life of his children. It reminds me of that verse, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. And so a question that I would mostly probably just pose to our groups here, but do you believe that God has and wants to have an active role in your life. So do you believe that he fights for you? All right. And then finally, when you chatted about the nurturing, nourishing, breastfeeding portion, it was so fun. I love that kind of imagery. It really, I mean, I'm a mom. It brings it home for me. It's just it's another way to imagine God's nearness. Like I love the word you used. You said withness. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, I got that from the Bible Project. They have a podcast about it that
cool.
I would recommend to anyone who's still interested.
Cool. Yeah, so you describe how God wants that withness with us. And so then my question, and maybe I'll pose it to you for fun if you feel like answering, is where have you sensed God's nurture in your own life? Like where have you felt him nurture you?
Yeah, I mean, a big one, honestly, for me is at school. I go to Trinity Western, and they have this big back 40, they call it. It's the forest.
Okay.
And it's like totally gorgeous. It's all protected. Like all the biology students go in and like take care of it.
Yeah.
But I love walking back there and either listening just to the forest or listening to music and just like feeling God connect with me in that way. It's just such a peaceful place, and I think I feel that witness with God there. There's no other distractions, and it's just such like a creative space for me too, of like I love to write poetry there and stuff like that too, because I can feel the nearness to God, and it just kind of takes everything else away, and I feel kind of nurtured in that creative sense, and nurtured just like if I'm feeling really like stressed out or just really angry about something, I go into the forest and I feel better.
Perfect.
And the walking helps, like the actual physical, like walking, but something about just being in nature just feels so close to God. And so it's a really special place.
I love that. That's beautiful. So I would ask the same question to you. Where have you sensed God's nurture in your own life? All right. Well, thanks for joining us, you guys. Thanks for joining me, Bryn.
Of course.
So fun to have a girl in the house. I'm Kaylee. This is Bryn, and this was Afterthoughts.